Well, welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. I really appreciate you being here. Good day and welcome. My name is Julie Trone. I'm one of the work group members, and I welcome you to our November meeting of the Zonta Says Now Intercontinental Think Tank. I'm helping host this meeting along with Karen Lang, and I'm here hosting the show or the presentation from Colorado, USA, and Karen is in Germany, is Berlin. And so we are co-hosting from different parts of the world, which is super exciting. Please remember to keep your microphone on mute during the presentation, and you're welcome to ask questions or make comments in the chat line. Bobby Cardillo is going to monitor that. We are recording today's meeting. If once we get to breakout rooms, the recording will stop temporarily so we can have a conversation, and that'll be a little bit later in the program. As you can see, we do have a full program, so let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to pass it along to Bobby. Oh, let me get to the next. I didn't even go through the slides. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. By the way, just so you know, we are seeing the entire, all the comments that we're going to be saying on the right side of our screen.
Oh, is that what you're seeing?
Yes. At any rate, I'm going to go ahead. I'm Bobby Cardillo, and I'm coming to you from Fairfax, Virginia in the U.S., and I'm also a member of the working group. We're delighted to welcome you this morning, especially those of you who are first-timers. Please enjoy and also share what you learn with other folks and try to get more folks to join us the next time around. I would ask if you would please use the chat line to say hello right now and tell us where you're from and what your time is locally. We'd just like to get to know each other. Also, each month we highlight a particular UN time, and at this point I want to mention that November 25th marks International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and it is, of course, the start of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The 16 days runs until December 10th, which is Human Rights Day. So today's meeting, we're going to look at the links between the impacts of climate change and violence against women. And also we're going to look at how art can be used to raise awareness of this in all of our countries. Let's see. So this is a picture of our working group, or it was a picture of our working group. And this presentation is coordinated by the working group. Various members are going to take part at various times during the presentation of today's meeting. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Angela Broekman. Angela?
Thank you, Bobby. Let's remind ourselves why Zonta says now to gender equal climate action. This train was built during the Industrial Revolution, a time when humans started to put more greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. Next slide. This is where we are accumulating, forming a blanket around our planet. Click. And causing global warming and associated extreme weather events. Click. Extreme drought, fire, floods, and storms trigger social disruption, causing millions of people to lose their livelihood and homes. Click. This social disruption magnifies any existing inequalities, including gender inequalities. Click. Zonta Says Now stops the train by advocating for governments to meet their obligation under the Paris Climate Agreement and closing the gender equity gap in education, health, economic opportunity, and safety. We use 3 tools to achieve this. Let's see. Okay, we use 3 tools to achieve this: our website, our think tanks, and our framework for action. We are guided by the Zonta International Statement on Climate Change and have links to many resources to help us on our climate journey. Karen, will you tell us what's been happening since our last meeting?
Karen, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So,
Start
okay,
over.
again. Yes, well, we did. You should listen. Yeah, you should hear me, of course. Yes, we asked our 340 members who already had attended our Intercontinental think tank meetings about their preferences for the schedule for next year. And yeah, because we want to make clear and that the dates and times are really accessible for everybody interested and accessible as possible, so that wherever you live in the world, you have an opportunity to attend some meetings in daylight hours. And we suggested that we rotate meetings around these time zones, in total 3 time zones, and asked members if they would prefer the meetings on a Saturday or a Sunday. And guess what? A total of 20 members responded, and 10 from North and South America, and 7 from Europe, Africa, and 3 from Asia, Oceania. And of these, 50% preferred Sunday, 20% preferred Saturday, and 30 had no preference. So yeah, you won't be astonished. We will go on with our meetings on Sundays, of course. So over to Pia. And the next slide.
Thank you, Karin. Our social media team has started up, and I tried to lead that. We have done small steps, and we have 6 members that want to work with Zonta Says Now on social media, plus Kate Edrin from Zonta International, the media specialist from the headquarters. Many thanks to these Zontanians for stepping into the role. We have developed some standards to start with and procedures to keep us on track, and hope that our discussions today will help us identify some new good messages to put out. We are starting to get submissions for the virtual art gallery, and today Julie will give an update to inspire you. Over to Bobby.
Okay. We also have some opportunities for you to help us out and to participate in Zonta Says Now. So please indicate your interest, if you have any, in the chat line, and we will follow up on that. Number one, we're very keen to present at CSW 68 this year, and we'd like to form a team to help create and deliver a presentation, and we wonder if you would like to be part of that. The theme is accelerating the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls by addressing poverty and strengthening institutions with financing with a gender perspective. So that's what that group is going to be working on. And then click, I think we should have another slide. We also want to identify like-minded organizations that we can collaborate with. So if you would like to be part of this team, we were going to research some organizations and come up with those we think most likely to be part of our group, our alliance. And if you would like to be part of this team, again, put it in the chat. And I will say this, some people are showing up as me in the chat, and I know you're not me. So maybe you can look at the chat, and if your name is not correct, you can add your name so that I know who is which. So today we're going to look at how climate change intersects and contributes to violence against women. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Angela.
Thank you, Bobby. Our speakers today are Pia Holgren and Karen Lang. Pia is a member of the Zonta Club of Linningdo near Stockholm in Sweden in District 21. Pia is a professional meteorologist, and her career has included work in the military and now presentations on television. She enjoys sailing and has sailed the Atlantic several times and has also sailed to Brisbane, a journey that took 10 months. Oh my goodness. Pia is a key member of the Zonta Says Now working group, where she leads the social media team and also instrumental in establishing the climate committee in District 21. Karen Lang is based in Germany and is a member of the Zonta Club of Berlin 1989 in District 27. Karen is a PR consultant and freelance journalist specializing in political communications, corporate communications, and science communications, focusing on medicine and healthcare. Karen is the press spokesman for the Union of German Zonta Clubs, the UN Advocacy Chair for District 27, and a valued member of the Zonta Says Now working group. Karen's advice and technical expertise laid the foundation for the international rollout of Zonta Says Now. Over to you, Pia and Karen.
Thank you, Angela. So, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is coming up. So today we will look at how climate change contributes to intimate partner violence, sexual violence, human trafficking and sexual exploitation, female genital mutilation and child marriage.
Yes, and there have been many studies showing how gender-based violence increases in disasters around the world. Heat, drought, fires, floods, and storms can generate potential triggers for gender-based violence, such as, give me a click, yes, unsafe or insecure housing, substance abuse, stress, trauma, grief, and loss, and click, as well relationship problems, unemployment, and economic pressures, complex bureaucratic processes regarding grants, insurance and rebuilding, reduced informal and formal support and services, and click the report, restricted movement and transport options as well, changed community, and a different life course. Click. The report found that in disasters, there is enormous pressure on women from family members, friends, police, and even health professionals, not to speak of men's violence. The authors concluded that until there's effective action, the vicious circle of disaster, followed by increased gender-based violence and strengthened patriarchal power, will continue.
Against that background, let's take a look at the intimate partner violence. A number of studies have shown the links between extreme heat and rising domestic violence. A Yale University study tracked nearly 200,000 girls and women who lived in India, Pakistan, and Nepal. They found that there was a 1 degree Celsius increase in the average annual temperature. There was more than 6% rise in physical sexual domestic violence. Click. In Madrid, researchers found the risk of intimate partner femicide rose by 40% in a heat wave. Click. In Kenya, women who experienced severe weather events, including heat waves, were 60% more likely to report intimate partner violence. We read so many statistics, but what does it mean for women? This is Suniti's story. She lives in India. When the May and June heat, and it became impossible for my husband to work in the fields, we would lose our only source of income. He becomes angry because he feels helpless about not being able to feed the children. When the frustration builds up and the children are whining and fighting, he takes it out on me. He also beats them too. He regrets hitting the children later, but the next day, when he still can't go out and earn, he does it again. After major bushfires in Australia, survivors talked about their experience with gender-based violence. This comment was chilling. Emma said, "It's like he's died. It's like I'm a widow, but the corpse, it's still here to beat me up." Karin.
Yes, let's look with this at sexual violence. When women are displaced, they are at greater risk of violence, including sexual violence. While they sleep, wash, bathe, or dress in emergency shelters, tents, or camps, the risk of sexual violence is a tragic reality of their lives as migrants or refugees. There are reports of migrant women who have suffered sexual violence while under the protection of the authorities, and who, upon reporting it, instead of being protected, have been imprisoned. In families where men left home to seek a living elsewhere, women and children were left to fend for themselves, which made them vulnerable to violence and sexual exploitation. In the US, following Hurricane Katrina, the rate of rape among women displaced to trailer parks rose 53.6 times the baseline rate in Mississippi for that year. Sometimes sex is also used as currency. In Uganda, for instance, climate change have increased crop failure, livestock loss, and food insecurity. Some food vendors, farmers, or landowners insist on trading sex with women in exchange for food or rent. Often attempts by women to negotiate providing labor in exchange for food are rejected. And in Lake Victoria in Kenya, men catch the fish and women sell it. Overfishing, agricultural runoff, and warming temperatures have led to fewer fish in this lake. Fishermen weren't catching enough to supply all the women fishmongers, so the fishermen started the Yaboya system. Give me sex and I'll make sure you get fish to sell. For many women, the survival of their family depends on getting fish to sell, so they felt they had to comply. The fishermen travel from village to village with many sexual partners and do not like to use condoms, so there is as well a high prevalence of HIV.
Globally, women and girls bear the brunt of water acquisition, distribution, and related household tasks. Climate change is leading to more drought or more polluted water sources, and women and girls must walk further to access safe water. Water insecurity can trigger gender-based violence in the home, walking to collection points, and at collection points. Click. For example, if there is insufficient water in the household, this can generate verbal disputes and violence. Violence could be directed towards children to enforce water collection rules. Women and girls may be physically abused if they don't provide sufficient water or ask for help to collect water to take too long to collect the water. Click. Women and girls cannot easily change their water collection routines, making it easy for men to target them with sexual harassment, physical assault, rape, or abduction throughout the water collection process. Click. In addition, when the women and girls arrive at the water collection points, there may be fights due to long queues, and there may be required to perform transactional sex. When the water is collected, the women and girls must take the return journey knowing they have to go through the same thing tomorrow. Let us not forget the women and environmental human rights defenders who face gender-based violence in defense of land, natural resources, and human rights. The IUCN reported that between 2015 to 16 in Central America, there were 2,197 documented attacks against women defenders. Nearly a third were intimidation and psychological harassment. 21 women defenders were murdered, with another 44 attempted murders. Over half of the assailants were police, military personnel, public officials, or governmental authorities.
Yes, and with this we are at the as well series theme of human trafficking. Let's take a look at this. Today, 1 in 130 women and girls globally is living in modern slavery. This map shows that in countries where there is more slavery, shown in red, there's also more gender inequality, shown by bigger circles. Countries in Africa and Asia are most at risk for both gender inequality and slavery. Climate change can be a trigger for human trafficking, as demonstrated by Onima's story. She lives in Bangladesh, and she says, "We didn't have any wage-earning brother, so we sisters used to grow spinach and other vegetables to sell in the market, not far from the border with India. During storms and floods, it was impossible to grow crops, and so we used to live in complete poverty. There was a woman who would regularly come by to try and sell her goods, often striking up conversation with the family when she did. At the time we were in crisis, she said she could help. She claimed that a domestic helper abroad I could earn $80 each month, which was about 10 times what I had been earning at the market. Given our situation, it was difficult to say no. After a few days, we rode a motorbike together to the border, then walked to the other side. We went to the train station where we met another man, and the woman left me. Eventually, we reached Mumbai, where I worked in a brothel. One day, the brothel owner took me and others in the brothel to the market to show me off. I ran away and found a police officer who rescued me. Now I'm back in Bangladesh and being supported by an NGO. When communities are destroyed and housing is in short supply, women can be very vulnerable. Adverts, like you see here, appear often after disasters. Is it a farm, someone trying to help? Is it from someone to try who wants to try to help, or is it the first step on a human trafficking story?
Yes, and how does climate change worsens the occurrences of female genital mutilation? We from now on call it FGM. This story describes the links. Margaret is 19 and comes from a Maasai community in the southern Kenya that was dramatically hit by the drought. All of her father's cows died last year. You know, our family depends on cows, she said. There is no other option. Her father could no longer afford to pay for her schooling, so he pulled her out. Looking for a source of income, he and her grandfather prepared to have her circumcised, that is FGM, and married off for a dowry. They only get 5 cows, sugar, blankets, and then it is over. You are married off, she said. Margaret escaped to a rescue center that helps girls and young women in her situation. FGM has been illegal in Kenya since 2011, but the law is not well enforced. FGM is closely linked to our final form of violence.
Yes, and with this, we come to one of our main topics, child marriage, which we want to end together with our partners at UN. And UN Women points out that child marriage usually means an end to girls' education, as we well know. It means an end to vocation and her right to make life choices. Research confirms that girls who marry in childhood are at greater risk for intimate partner violence than girls of the same age who marry later. Save the Children's Global Girlhood report shows how the impacts of climate disasters can increase the risk of child marriage in 4 ways. Firstly, when health and nutrition services are interrupted, girls' sexual and reproductive health needs are not met. This can increase unintended pregnancies and disability, both of which increase girls' risk of being married as children. The second one, traveling to school may become dangerous. Roads may be closed temporarily or schools may become shelters. Girls are more likely than boys to be taken out of school for safety reasons and less likely to be supported to return after a period away from school. Being out of school increases a girl's risk for marriage. Climate events affect families' incomes, and families under financial pressure may turn to child marriage to help reduce the cost of providing for one of their daughters. Climate disasters can disrupt the systems that help to keep girls safe from violence, like child protection services, law enforcement, schools, and informal protection from friends and family. Some families see child marriage as a way to protect their daughters from strangers. Hotspots where girls face the dual threat of high climate risk and high risk of child marriage are found in sub-Saharan Africa, especially the Sahel region, and in Asia. Globally, nearly 9 million girls face extreme risk of climate disasters and child marriage every year. Many girls in the hotspot countries are also struggling with the worst of the current hunger crisis.
This is what women and girls on the front line of child marriage are saying. Amina, a climate activist in Somalia, says, we are seeing and living the climate crisis. We have seen the drought ruin our farm. Now the sun is very hot. Everything is so dry and the trees are dying. You can't walk along the road because the dust is so bad. The dust is everywhere. Without climate change, I would have had a better life. That is something that really upsets me. In Mozambique, a young woman said, I was pressured to get married when I was 15 years old because we were starving at home. Girls think that by getting married, their living conditions will improve, but not always. Everything depends on luck. Click. In Kenya, a young woman said, due to climate change, parents are losing their only source of livelihoods, which is livestock, and they are committing suicide. Children are left as orphans, and they may die due to hunger. UNICEF report entitled IS and End to Child Marriage Within Reach highlights that at the current pace, the world is at least 300 years away from ending child marriage. It is also stated that for every 10% increase or decrease in rainfall, there is a 1% increase in child marriage. For example, Pakistan has made significant strides in reducing child marriage, having prevalence over the past 2 decades. These intense rainfall and flooding in 2022 would correlate to an 18% increase in the prevalence of child marriage, equivalent to erasing 5 years of progress. So we have described a few of the links between climate change and gender-based violence, but what do we do about it?
Yes, and this is the overall question. What can we do? Climate action is an essential component in the ongoing fight to eliminate violence against women and girls. This CSW 66 position paper from 2022 from the United Nations Women summarizes the situation well and includes a poster outlining some recommendations that can be taken. And the recommendations are shown in this graphic. Well, it's a very, okay, big picture. I try to lead you through that. Well, the first point, of course, is public and private sectors work together to finance and implement evidence-driven laws. The second crucial factor, develop evidence-driven prevention strategies for sure. The third is provide affordable survivor-centered services. The fourth, obtain flexible funding from states, private sector, foundations, and other donors to support autonomous, girl-led, and women's rights organizations to end gendered violence. Increase access to funding for gender-just climate solutions, especially at the grassroots level. That's the fifth point. And the sixth, include women and girls in decision-making, leadership roles, and environmental governance to support the creation of a green economy. And I think we know exactly that we have to go for parity in each of our countries, on the parliament level as well as on the level of companies. And of course, in the STEM sector. And yes, as well, apply community-based cooperative models to build resilience, including equal land tenure security for men and women. And the last point, create an enabling environment by gathering gendered environment statistics. We all should ask for numbers, of course, and for measuring, because we can't improve it if we don't measure it.
So knowing what we have learned today, it makes us realize that just how important Zonta International's programs are. Our flagship campaigns of Zonta Says No to Gender Equal Climate Action and Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women raise awareness of the problems and work to close the gender gaps. Through these programs, you can take personal action. By supporting the Zonta Foundation for Women, we can continue to found our international service programs around the world that help women and girls face the combined and interrelated challenges of climate change and gender-based violence. During the 16 days of activism, please use this presentation and the references in it to raise awareness of the links between the climate change and violence against women. Let's build a better world for women and girls. Thank you. Over to Angela to discuss what we just have learned.
Thank you, Pia and Karen, for your presentation. It was wonderful.
I'm sorry, Angela, can I interrupt? You, when Bobby and I got on, we wanted to express what has been going on in the chat. So before we move into our breakout rooms, Angela, can you throw it to Bobby and then Bobby throw it to Angela, just to double check? Thank you for letting me interrupt. I appreciate that.
Bobby?
Thank you. I just want to indicate there are no questions in the chat just yet, but perhaps you haven't thought of them. As you think of them, please enter them in the chat, and perhaps after we do our breakout sessions, we can address any questions you've come up with. So thank you. Go ahead, Angela.
All right. So that brings us to our breakout sessions, which is the next agenda on today. And so what we want to focus on today is the one question that we shared on the agenda. What messages can we use for the 16 days of activism to show how climate change contributes to violence against women? Ideally, we need very short messages that can be used on social media. We have around 20 minutes to discuss these issues in our breakout rooms. I want to thank everyone first for sharing your thoughts in the breakout rooms, because together we listen, we learn, and we get a snapshot of what is happening. After our breakout rooms, we will join and have a quick discussion. So let's see. Julie, you're going to put us in breakouts?
I am. Bear with me. So, Mari and Irene joined me in a room, or maybe we really weren't in a room. And so Irene and I had a wonderful discussion about how strengthening the programs we do is super important because of climate change. And that she felt, and she has a very busy club, and she felt that, you know, with what they do, they'll need to strengthen what they do in order to work on gender-based violence. And so Mari just came in and she was telling us that they just had an earthquake recently on Friday in Manila. And the internet has been in and out, but Mari, I assume that, and I can only give you a few seconds here, but I assume that that will increase gender-based violence if there was destruction and disruption. Yeah.
Very true. That is very true. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to, and thank you for coming in. We're going to get a little recap from our other hosts. So let's start with Pia. Let us know what was happening in your breakout room. And I'm sorry for the confusion for the breakout rooms, but I hope it turned out okay. I saw the microphones going like this, so I know you all were talking.
Thank you, Julie. Yeah, we were three, Enrique and Mapusa. Enrique from Germany and Mapusa from Bangladesh. And yeah, we discussed that the job we are doing here at Zonta now is really, really, really important. And that the most important thing is to get more female leaders in the world. And that's what we already work with in Zonta. And yeah, I mean, of course, it's more obvious for Mapusa and what she's doing and in clubs in Bangladesh because they direct see it when it's extreme weather events. And in Germany and Sweden, we more have to work to convince people and tell them these figures and statistics that we try to provide in these think tanks and so.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. It's actively active room. Karen, what did you learn?
Oh, well, I think, Angela, do you want to take it over? You were both in the same group.
Well, we had a wonderful discussion, and Teresa did a beautiful whiteboard. Teresa, can you share that in? I don't know how we can share that with the rest of them, but we ended up with like 11 items that we could do to help create the information that we gleaned as to how do you tie doing the social media memes, tie that to violence against women and climate, and then continue with the battle that people understand that climate drives the weather. And so they think, oh, climate doesn't touch me. But when you address the fact that your increase of the erratic weather is the climate touching you, and it's those impacts of the weather that drive all these opportunities for the violence.
Thank you, Angela.
Yes.
Angela, I didn't grab the picture effectively. If one of the people in our breakout did, there's my first two are distorted, but there's something in the chat that summarized what most of the 11. We also said that we needed the links to the resources to add to the posts.
I saved it, Teresa, so we
will
share
good.
that. Yeah,
Thank you, Julie.
I'm just downloading it now. So
excellent. I almost grabbed it in time, but it was whoop, we're gone.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you, Angela. And Bobby, what went on in your room?
Okay, I was in a room with Mita Mitra, just the two of us, and so we got to know each other a little bit and talk about how we can do this in our two separate countries, how we can try to spread the word on this nexus between climate change and violence against women. And Mita shared that she was very impressed with these slides, but there is a language issue. And so she was hoping there might be a way to perhaps translate the slides into German, or perhaps use some of the slides in German. So at any rate, she's going to be following up with Karen and seeing what you can do there in Germany to, try to get this information down to the club level. But we also talked about the fact that she had done a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation on what was happening with climate change in Europe and how that affected women in Europe and violence against women in Europe, and shared it with District 25, I guess it is, Eric Alavia's Bombay Club. And she's going to share that with me as well. We exchanged emails, and that's something where perhaps I can take some of those slides and turn them into memes. But in terms of memes, I think we were talking mostly about trying to get statistics for our own countries to put into the 16 slides of, for instance, in the US. One meme might be, did you know during Hurricane Katrina, this many more women suffered sexual violence than is typical? Did you know during the fires that happened in the West, this many women ended up in poverty because they lost their homes or whatever? If we can find US statistics, and we can do these memes for the 16 days. And I know that the USA Caucus is already working on that, and we'll be sending some out. So,
yes. So 16 days is upon us. Thank you, Bobby. That's really great information. And because we had such rich information about the memes in some of our groups, if you can share those with us, either send them to Bobby or Carol or Zonta says now, that would be wonderful. And we can pull together all of them, and then we'll have a greater list, and then we can share them with everybody. And then Teresa just said in the chat that When you do post on, I guess I know about this on Facebook, but when you post, a lot of times it'll ask you to translate, and you can translate to the language that you have on your computer. So or a different one if you have that set up. So I know that that's possible, but great point about translating our slides. And that is actually on our to-do list, but we haven't gotten there yet. We have to get translators in other languages to maybe even record some of the slides. Like Carol recorded the slides you just saw that Pia and Karen beautifully spoke about. Carol made a video on them and we sent them out. But it would be lovely, and Mita is correct, that if we had videos made of these individual sections in different languages, that would really go a lot farther.
Yes, but we already do that, and on the level of the Union of German Zonta clubs. They can already find also very interesting materials on our website in the membership area. We have in February, we have a wonderful seminar conference, and we will have a wonderful famous speaker who is very into this topic, who guides us a little bit, and afterwards a great workshop with all the Zontians attending. So there's a lot coming up now, and don't worry about translation, please.
Okay, we won't. Teresa, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say two things. I can guess many languages, but I was in an Arabic speaking country and I had to do laundry, and I wasn't sure if I was using the fabric softener or the soap. So what I did is got my phone and I went to Google Translate. I pointed it at the thing and it translates it. The same thing will happen with the slides. And then you could snap a picture of the translated slide. It takes 10 seconds. Wow. The only thing is sometimes grammar or agreement needs to be tweaked. So you have somebody who speaks that language look at it and make a change. The other is if you're making your graphics in Canva, which is very easy, user-friendly to make, they have a translation button now. You can make it into any language, which is really cool, and it's free.
Yeah, that is cool. I'm going to check that out. Thank you. I'm going to throw it to Angela now so we can continue our slideshow. Hold on a second. Okay, I got to display it differently. There we go. Everybody see the full screen? Is that good?
Yes, very good. Thank you, Julie. And now Julie will explain how art has an impact on our lives and can create positive action for our climate. Julie is a member of the Zonta Club of Fort Collins in Colorado, USA, and leads our virtual art gallery team. So Julie, please explain to us the art gallery and what we are now moving into.
Thank you, Angela. I really appreciate that. My name is Julie Trone, as you know, and I'm coordinating the virtual art gallery. We're going to speak just for a few minutes today and see a few short videos about how we can create change through art. This is a wonderful way for Zontians to get active and involved if this is the area that they're passionate about. So historically, art has been part of humanity since the very beginning, as we've seen through rock paintings, cave paintings, jewelry, pottery. It's really very fascinating how art has actually been the thread through our lives. So today, let's take a little glimpse of how it can build a better world for women and girls, and ask ourselves, how does art create change? I have 4 bullet points up here, as you can see. Art is an intellectual and emotional stimulant, actually. It can put us in a positive or negative space, inspire us, teach us, create awareness, and motivate us. The first step in change is to be aware of the situation we are presented. Through art, this occurs often as humans are quite visual and many do not enjoy reading. Awareness builds up in us, and for some, we become curious. Curiosity improves understanding because we search for meaning and answers to quell or even increase our curiosity. Understanding is the bridge to compassion and empathy, two emotions that are necessary in our lives to improve the lives of others. These emotions are the catalysts of action. Sounds like a chemical reaction, doesn't it? It truly is a psychological or physiologically based chemical reaction. One area of art that is more and more pronounced and we see in the news is its role in activism. Not only are the signs we see from protesters art, the written word and graphics on signs can create an emotional response. Painting, sculpture, dance, theater, and digital art. These are all examples of using art to influence change. Let's look at some forms of art and activism, which is what the word we're going to use, which is a movement. Self-inspired or in groups that influences change in thoughts and behavior leads to social justice. Climate justice, social justice, whatever you want to call it. It helps build gender equality, narrows the gender gap, empowers women and girls, and improves the environment. So art is a voice. Today we'll explore 4 types of voices: destruction, artistic expression, community action, and information gathering. So let's start with art destruction. Is this climate action? Think of it in your own mind. Here we see the protesters throwing soup on a piece of art on Vincent van Gogh's famous 1888 work called Sunflowers. Many of us who love art may find this to be a horrible choice, but it's high profile, and that is why they're doing this. But is it okay? Is it okay to ruin a great work of art or be destructive of anything to make a point? Well, Zonta International, Zonta says now, we both do not condone art destruction. These protesters from Just Stop Oil understand the intentionality of the shock factor. Are they using their voice and activism to educate about climate change? Many of us agree that they are not. But many, and it's very influential to young people, feel like this is a great way of using their voice. Artistic expression. Well, this beautiful array of artwork from children is just an example of artistic expression. And as you see from the title underneath about the artist, he asked kids all across Ottawa, Canada and India to paint climate change for their parents, and over 700 children responded. What a great way to articulate what children feel. Art is an expression of their inner voice, and a lot of times adults and children and teens cannot articulate that verbally. Zonta clubs can do the same thing in their communities to provide climate change and climate action education and how real and urgent it really is. Here's climate change through activism through art. I am going to play this video for a few minutes.
My name is Fadzai Mwakutria. I'm a visual artist, sometimes an artivist. I live in the Highlands and I'm originally from Zimbabwe. Climate Change Creative is a website that encourages people to share some visual imagery about climate impact on where they are. I was motivated to start collecting art and looking at art about climate change when I started engaging more with climate change discussions and sustainability issues. I began to understand how global warming impacted on Zimbabwe, and that's where I started feeling motivated to tell my story of the impact of climate change in different communities around the world. I felt it was important to amplify and encourage the voice of marginalized communities, especially in terms of climate action and climate change, because we don't hear from these marginalized voices normally. And for me, it was important that climate change discussions included their voices. There can be marginalization because of geography and because of language barriers. I feel art can help these voices be heard because we all use visuals and we all understand that language, the visual language.
We're going to keep moving on. I'm only showing you a portion of each video because of time and because of the message. This next one is combining art and climate data, which is very fascinating. We're going to see only the very beginning of this, but it hopefully will impact. And one more, talking about community action. Just a step back, the climate data to me is so fascinating, how we can take our data and put it into a visual. With the more data we collect as Zontians from our communities about what's happening and how many people have been displaced, the increase in human trafficking or whatever the data is, eventually we may be able to do something like that, is put it into a visual so all Zontians understand how it's affecting our communities. This one is about a public art challenge. And in Alaska, this is about the winners of the Bloomberg Philanthropies 2023 winner. And this just expresses...
Climate change is something that we deal with on a daily basis in Alaska. If we could think about a new way to talk about climate change and to get new individuals involved in talking about solutions, creative practitioners, engineers, artists, that's what made us want to apply for the Public Art Challenge.
As a part of the Public Art Challenge, we rehabbed this building, renovated it into a real community space that artists use as studios, where we hosted community workshops.
By combining the power of public art and the power of community, Seed Lab has the best chance to make an impact, not only in Alaska, but around the world.
We started with a group of artists that we knew worked in what we call social practice. It was more about how do you create a project with a group of people, with community members? How do you listen and then create something visual or something experiential based on that conversation?
The Seed Lab, what it really did is bring together organizations and artists to really address this problem that we've seen for years, but weren't necessarily talking together about.
I have the Think Next Over Now mural, which is on the Seed Lab, and it depicts a young boy hiking in the Chugach Mountains, which is just right outside of Anchorage. And it has the words Think Next Over Now, which as a Native American, we often think 7 generations from now. When we're making decisions on how do we need a plan, don't just think about next year, think about generations. And so hoping that that can inspire people to make more climate conscious decisions.
Thank you all for joining us today for the last iteration of these programs that are meant to think about our changing environment and sort of the confluence of science and art.
Since the project wrapped, this building continues to be an active space, including workshops and conversations. Artists, youth, everyday Alaskans can get involved in something that's happening at the Seed Lab and do their part in reducing their impact on the climate and in our city.
So you'll see that brings a lot of emotion in for me, because we can see how the reach is greater when we use art to make a point, to use it through activism, to use it as a visual, like our memes you were talking about earlier. So important to continue the messaging that way, and our virtual art gallery. Okay, so Art COP21 at that year, so we're going into 28 right now. Arts COP21 started a climate festival. I couldn't find whether or not there was one this year in Dubai, but I know one of our other videos talked about COP26, so it has been going on. And it's another great way to combine art to make a point about climate change. Here's another picture, couple pictures from the climate festival. So it's important to use your voice, and art is a way for many people, including Zontians, our Golden Z and our Z clubs, to be able to collaborate, to act now, to use their passion and their imagination to get out into the community what is going on with our climate, what is happening with gender-based violence, and how we can make a difference. And my last slide is Zonta says now virtual art gallery. We do have a few submissions. I totally encourage you to encourage your Zontians in your clubs, Z clubs, Golden Z clubs, to submit. You still have until December 18th. And there's wiggle room there. If it comes on the 19th or the 25th on Christmas Day, that's okay. We have a wonderful forum to be able to express ourselves. So I totally encourage you to do that. Any kind of artwork, but it has to be transferred into a digital format so we can put it on the website. So if it's a painting, you have to take a picture of it, a sculpture. And we do have a picture of one, I guess, still life and some photos so far. And we have some Zontians that made a huge poster on a big piece of canvas, and they're holding it up. It's so wonderful. So just a little peek at some of the art that's coming forward. But poetry, photographs, videos, sculptures, music, as you saw in that one video, dance, a video of dance. So pretty amazing stuff. So thank you for listening. I am going to throw it to Pia.
Before you do, can I just say something about the chat? I wanted to point out that Teresa has said from a membership point of view, we're promoting this to young professional artists who can then join Zonta for reduced rate right now. But she says, let's make the gallery one of our 16 days posts. That's something we can do in all of our countries.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea.
It is. This year, November 25th to December 10th, the gallery is not up yet. It won't be up till January. We can promote the gallery to get more people. So I totally suggest promoting the gallery, and you can go on zonta.org to our Zonta Says Now page and click on it, and you'll be able to download the submission form. We are doing a 10 days of advocacy. I couldn't get that word out. 10 days of advocacy through, I think it's March 1st through 10th, which includes International Women's Day, and that is tying climate change to gender-based violence. So we will be doing memes then too, memes and posts, and that will be a great place to use our link to our gallery, which will be up by then in your posts. So watch for that. And you can always contact me if you have any questions. I believe my name is on the submission form. So thank you. And Pia, back to you. Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. And what else has been happening within Zonta Says Now? Julie kindly shared this useful slide that defines equality, equity, and justice. And in District 21, which is Sweden and Latvia, we have been very busy raising awareness of the links between climate change and gender inequality. Johan Rockström is a world-famous director of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research and professor in Earth System Science at the University of Potsdam. He was our guest speaker last Saturday at an Inspiration Digital webinar we had. Johan is most famous for his work on Breaking Boundaries, a BBC production, and feature with David Attenborough in the documentary Breaking Boundaries in 2021. No, it was Netflix, sorry. He recently co-authored a book called Earth for All that includes empowering women as one of the 5 strategies for creating a sustainable world. And our governor in District 21, Marika Rinberg Holmgren, had 2 articles now printed in Swedish newspapers in the headline, and it was a big newspapers. And for this, one has been translated using Google Translate, you can see. And over to Karin.
Yes, yeah, it's so wonderful what you did with Mr. Rockström, and I really highly recommend the book. I'm reading it right now, and it's really very effective and very interesting, and highlights a lot of things we can also do, and highlights also the interconnection in between gender and climate change. Yes, and don't forget about the COP28 in Dubai. That's a very crucial conference of the party, starting the 13th of November and going until the 12th of December. And this year's COP28 will include the finalization of the first global stocktake of the implementation of the Paris Agreement, a process that takes 2 years. And it also covers many issues, and we will have 4 cross-cutting themes. The first, fast-tracking the energy transition and slashing emissions before 2030 to keep the world on track of a 1.5 Celsius future. Which will be the most difficult thing. And the second, mobilizing for the most inclusive COP ever, putting nature, people, lives, and livelihoods at the heart of climate action. And now the fourth point, and also very important, transforming climate finance by delivering on old promises and setting the framework for a new deal on finance. I think that's now in a good way. Recent news were talking us. Yeah, let's hope for that, so that developing countries are in a better position to respond to the climate crisis. And gender equality is mostly covered on Monday, the 4th of December at the COP of 28, though there are also presentations on the 3rd December, 5th December, and 9th of December, so be aware of that. These are the sessions with the gender theme. It will be interesting to see what comes from COP28. Will negotiations phase out fossil fuels, or will it be a phase down? Will there be a breakthrough in finance for developing countries? And what will be the results of the global gender stocktake? We will provide a summary at the December meeting. And finally, please consider donating to the foundation and the endowment fund whenever you can. Our projects to help women and girls can only happen with our donations and with your donations. And this month is every November. So do your part and donate to the foundation today. Over to Julie. She will now talk about our next meeting.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. So much information. I'm looking forward to sitting in on some of those COP28 sessions if they're virtual. I'm not sure if they are, but at least reading the news, right? All right, so that's our next meeting will be on Sunday, December 17th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UTC. So check that out in your part of the world. What does that mean to you? And let's see, the slides and video from today's meeting will be uploaded to our working page. It probably won't be uploaded till after Carol returns. She went on a well-deserved vacation, so it'll probably be mid to late December before it's available. Thank you again to Pia and Karen for your presentations, and to all of you for the great discussions, and for the team in hosting today's event, Bobby and Angela. Remember, through our gender equal climate action, we are building a better world for women and girls. Please check out the Zonta Says Now resources on the websites and start creating your artwork for the virtual art gallery. If you have any questions, please email info@zontasaysnow.org.au. Until next month, this is Carol's signature. So I'm just telling you, I don't want you to think that I made this up, because I love that this is Carol's signature. Keep breathing, keep smiling, and have fun. Thank you all so much for attending today. I appreciate your time, your imaginations, your intellect, and your passion and commitment to making a better world for women and girls. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
you.
Julie.
Thank you very
See
much.
you again, Pia. Hi.
Really interesting.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I
Be
learned-
safe, Mari. Be safe.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Mari.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.